What's going on, everyone? So the Lakers have an uphill battle to climb. There's just no way around it. And this team, currently constructed, really does provide a lot more optimism, right? And even kind of the consensus amongst Laker fans seem to be like, okay, like we have a real shot here. We get into the playoffs. Once we're in the playoffs, anything can happen. Who knows, right? The West is so wide open. There's so many teams that you look at us and we're like, yeah, we can match up with them. We could beat those teams. You got LeBron James, Anthony Davis. If they're healthy, two top 10 guys, you trust them to lead you to the promised land, right? But it is a real battle. We have to win at least 14 of the 23 games just to get to like 500 on the season. Now, that's not ideal. I would like them to be over 500, but we got to win at least, probably 15, 16, 17 games. It's not impossible. It's not unlikely. We have the 25th easiest schedule in the NBA. So we have a very easy road ahead of us. Our last 9 games, we should win all of them, right? We do play the Clippers and we do play the Suns towards the end, but both of those teams might not even play their guys, right? Like if the Suns are locked in at the 4th seed, right? Like, why would they play Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant? They're not. They're going to probably rest them so that way they're healthy and ready to go for the playoffs. Same thing with the Clippers, right? Clippers are locked in the 4 or 5 seed. Why would they go then to go and have their guys risk getting hurt like in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George? No, they're probably going to sit those guys. So the Lakers may be able to win those games just being at the point in the season where they are. It would be nice if we were in that position where it's like, hey, we could rest LeBron James and Anthony Davis and, have them get some rest before we get into the playoffs. Unfortunately, we had such a bad start. That's not going to happen. And LeBron James in the All-Star game, he ended up having to leave the second half with a hand contusion. But according to him, it's not bad. He'll be fine, and he's willing to play the rest of the way. And we're going to need him. He's got to play all 23 of these games. Now, will he? I don't know. Hopefully. He at least has to play 20, at least. And we need Anthony Davis to play all these games too. But bare minimum, LeBron's got to play all these. And LeBron's touched on this, right? He talked about how these are the most important of his career for the regular season, and that he looks to avoid missing the playoffs for 2 years straight because that's just not part of my DNA. Okay, if it's not part of your DNA, and you gave us that tweet that he's deleted, but hey, the internet lives forever, so we remember that tweet. I'm old enough to remember when LeBron James said, that he promises he's not going to miss the playoffs again. So you have the team, you have the opportunity, you have the schedule, you have everything you need to have success the rest of the way. Again, I don't think they're going to go 23-0 or anything like that because it's a game of basketball, right? You saw the Portland game. Teams just get hot sometimes, right? And it's the Lakers. Teams are always going to bring their A game. Teams are always going to do their best. They want to win on that big stage and all that stuff and say, oh, we beat the Lakers. So it's not going to be a cakewalk. But I do believe that we can win a lot more than we've lost. I do believe that we need to take every one of these games as if they are, they're must wins. Obviously there are some games that are more important than others, right? Like against the Timberwolves and, the Pelicans and the Warriors and like the teams that we're fighting to get into the playoffs against, we have to win those games without a doubt. But we should be looking at the Grizzly games as must wins. We should be looking at, the Bulls games as must wins. We should be looking at the Suns games and Dallas and all that stuff. Those should all be must win games. Every single game, the rest of the way, has to be viewed as a must win. They all have to be viewed and looked at as we have to do whatever it takes to get that W, to get that win. And this roster, again, I really believe that this roster can compete. Even LeBron, he recently talked about, I've always been confident in any club that I've been on once we got into the playoffs and we can compete with anybody, and I feel no different now. With the roster the way we're shaped up right now, if we can finish off this regular season on the right foot, then we can compete versus anyone in the Western Conference, if not the whole league. if we punch our ticket, we can compete versus anyone. That's what LeBron James said about this late push. And I agree with him. I agree with him 100%. There is not a team in the Western Conference that I look at and go, man, there's no way we're beating them in a 7-game series. That doesn't mean that we will, but, because people like, I see comments and stuff, people are like, oh, like you don't think that this team can beat us or that team. I'm not saying that they can't. I'm just saying, like, you look at the teams in the Western Conference, and there's not a team that I just look at and go, there's no way the Lakers are beating them. There's a difference between, like, the Warriors with Kevin Durant, where you're just like, yeah, nobody's beating that team. And, a team like the Grizzlies or the Kings or something like that, where you're looking at them and you're like, we match up well against them. Denver, we always seem to have Denver's number. I mean, we were beating Denver without LeBron and AD. Like, it's just, you look at these teams in the West and you have this confidence. You're like, man, we have all the pieces we need on this roster, on this team. If we have LeBron James playing at a high level, Anthony Davis, if we can have him play the way that we know he can play, good luck. Can a team beat us? Sure. But it's not going to be easy. We're not going to beat some cakewalk. I think we have as good of a chance as anybody. We're still the only team that have 2 top 10 players in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. We have Anthony Davis has the biggest defensive impact in the league next to Giannis. Him and Giannis, that's it. So we have him, Jared Vanderbilt. We've already seen what he can do defensively. And it just is nice to have that luxury of a solid wing defender that we can put on, the best player on the other team. If we're playing the Warriors, he can guard Andrew Wiggins. He can guard Klay Thompson, right? If we're playing, the Clippers, he could guard Paul George. He could guard Kawhi Leonard. If we're playing Denver, we could put him on Jamal Murray. If we're playing, say the Grizzlies, have him put some size on Ja Morant, or have him guard Baines or whatever, right? We have the flexibility now. We have a 3-way scorer and D'Lo. We have an elite 3-point shooter in Beasley, right? And that's not counting that, D'Lo can knock down the 3. It's not counting that, Austin Reeves can shoot at a high level, right? LeBron has the talent. We've seen him win with less. We have. Now, granted, he's now 38 years old and in year 20, but still, he has shown that he's still good enough to be arguably one of the best players in the league. I mean, even at his age, you can make an argument that outside of Giannis, he's still the best player in the NBA. You might not believe it. You might have somebody else above him, but you can still make the argument, right? How many guys could you do that for at age 38 and in year 20? None. The answer is 0. There has never been this scenario where the guy, this stage of his career, is still arguably, one of the best players in the league, top 3, top 5, top whatever. It's crazy. And so he has the talent still. He has the capability. He has the mental. He has everything. And now he has the players and the pieces. Legitimately, LeBron James now has a real roster and a real team with real players. We saw what the bubble team was able to do with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And one, because, people always like to say, well, it's a bubble championship. We were the best team in the league in every way. We were the best offense, the best defense. We were the best team the entire season. It wasn't like we were the 8th seed and just ended up going to the bubble and lucking our way into a championship. No, we were the best team that year. Front to back, we were beating everybody. Before we went into lockdown, Lakers won, 3 or 4 straight games against, the Clippers, the Bucks, the Denver, and who else was it, Boston or whatever? We literally beat, the top 4 teams behind us, back to back to back to back, and then we went into lockdown, right? So it wasn't like we were just we were the best team in the league. And this roster is better than the 2020 roster. We didn't have a D'Lo. We didn't have a Jared Vanderbilt, right? We didn't have an elite level guy like Beasley that could knock down threes. KCP was our best 3-point shooter. And yeah, he was having a great year, but he wasn't super high volume. He's taking 3 a game, 4 a game. Beasley's has the same shooting on 9 a game. That's a big difference, right? And we didn't have a D'Angelo Russell three-way elite scorer that can, score from anywhere and play make. We didn't. I mean, this team, we didn't have, Rui is like our Kuz. We basically got the same type of guy. A sizable young wing that can defend and be athletic and shoot and all of that stuff. Like, we got, this team is better than the bubble team. Now, here's the thing, though. Chemistry is a big issue. Just player fit, development, all those things, right? There are a lot of factors that go into it. And we have a lot of ground that we need to cover between now and then, or by the time we get to the playoffs. But it's not impossible. I mean, LeBron James himself has already done this. He did it in Cleveland, and they went to the NBA Finals, right? Where he basically revamped his entire roster, lead GM, just went and basically traded away everybody and got a whole new roster and was able to use that roster to get into the playoffs. That was when he got Larry Nance and Jordan Clarkson and stuff like that, right? This is a team that I look at and go, man, this team can beat anybody. What big three? We did this on the Lakers show. What big three is better than our big three? And I might have to just do a video breaking this down in and of itself, by itself, because I do think that this is actually a good conversation, right? Take every big three in the league, or three players in the league, and stack them up to the Lakers. The only one that I can think of that I think comes comparable is Milwaukee, right? Outside of that, Boston, I think LeBron is better than Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think Anthony Davis is better than Tatum and Jaylen Brown, right? But, okay, let's go one by one. Their best player, Jason Tatum. Our best player, LeBron. LeBron's better. AD and Jaylen Brown. I think AD is better than Jaylen Brown, right? D'Lo and Marcus Smart. At worst, that's a wash, and only because Marcus Smart's defense. But D'Lo is a guy that nightly can give you 17 to 20, but let's just call it a wash, right? So, again, the Lakers win. And then I think our role guys match up with all their teams. Because I think our depth and our role guys match up with every team's role guys. So then it just comes down to the big three, right? Who are the two stars, and then that third guy on a nightly basis consistently can help kind of fill in the gaps. The Warriors, LeBron's better than Steph. AD's better than Clay, Jordan Poole, or Draymond. And D'Lo, at this point, I would put above Clay. So again, we're good. Yeah, every team you look at, go through them all and find me another. The only big three that I think is comparable is the Bucks. I think Giannis is better than LeBron, but how much? Let's say Giannis is a +3. Okay. I don't even think it's that much, right? But AD over Chris Middleton, AD's what? +4 or 5? So then that makes the Lakers +2. And then let's say Drew Holiday and D'Lo. I think Drew Holiday, because of his defense, he might be the best on-ball defender in the league. And he's still a guy that can go get you, 15, 20. So I think, just say Drew Holiday is a +3. So at worst, it's a wash. At best, Lakers are a +2. I think however you slice it, I think the Lakers can match up and compete with every single team in the league. I really do. But again, chemistry, team, all of that, relationships, all of those are definitely a factor. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think about LeBron? What do you think of his comments? Do you think that he can play all 23 games? Do you want him to play all 23 games? Do you think we can make the playoffs? Do you think this team can win a championship? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below.